Hi, I'm Dr. Jeffrey LeBenger. At Summit Medical Group, we believe that all citizens need to be informed about the important healthcare issues that affect their lives. That's why we're very proud to support important programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Agnes Varus NJTV studio at 2 Gateway. Funding has been provided by NJM Insurance Group. Choose New Jersey. Our mission is attracting companies to the Garden State. The Turrell Fund, supporting right from the start NJ. The Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. The New Jersey Economic Development Authority. Berkeley College. And by Summit Medical Group, a multi-specialty medical practice providing comprehensive care from birth and pediatrics to geriatric care, concentrating in general wellness, cancer treatment, disease management, and behavioral health. Promotional support provided by NJ Biz, all business, all New Jersey, and by NJ Advance Media.
Welcome to State of Affairs. I'm Steve Adubato. We're coming to you from the Agnes Varus NJTV studio right here in Newark, New Jersey. We're going to introduce a gentleman who knows Newark, but he's not from Newark. He is Reed Gusciora, who is the mayor of the capital city, Trenton. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Steve.
For those who don't know Trenton, by the way, you can see the Capitol Dome behind us. Trenton's more than that, right?
It is. It's 7 square miles. It's on the sits midway between Philadelphia and New York. We have 4 train lines, waterfront property, so it's a great place to come and invest.
You also spent 22 years in the state legislature before you became mayor.
Represented the Capital District, yes.
That's right. Number one challenge facing Trenton these days happens to be?
Well, it's a combination. Our water, public utility is a challenge. We're trying to turn that around. We have economic development issues, crime, and also education.
What are the biggest opportunities for Trenton?
The fact that you could buy low and develop. We have a lot of potential developable lands. 7 entities came in for cannabis ventures. We have the Roebling factories that have been sitting there for 50 years. So we have a lot of investors that want to come in and gamble on Trenton. You
know, it's interesting. I happened to be at a college basketball game. I have full disclosure. I'm a fan of Seton Hall University basketball. Miles Powell, right, from Trenton, made a big shot in one of the games against Villanova, and the announcer said, "There he is, Miles Powell from Trenton. Trenton makes the world takes." Explain to folks what that means. And by the way, is that still on the bridge?
It's still on the bridge, and now it has LED lighting. So it changes colors.
Technology, innovation. Okay, explain to folks the short version, Reader's Digest version. I'll age myself. When it comes to that whole who makes and who takes.
Well, we made the wire for the Brooklyn Bridge and the Roebling Wire Works. We also made Lennox China, Beam China, and a whole host of things that we made. Trojan rubbers were made in Trenton, New Jersey.
Really? I didn't know that.
Exactly. But all those factories have shut down, and a lot of that, a lot of those buildings are redevelopable or can be mixed use, can be. A lot of opportunities are available.
But talk about the role of government. Yeah. You've made it clear, and because you know state government better than most, frankly. What is the role of state government in your view? A, in terms of direct state aid. B, in terms of the role of the Economic Development Authority in terms of tax incentives.
Well, there's a lot of tax-exempt property.
Are they 2 different issues, by the way?
No, they're all in the same.
Go ahead.
There are a lot of tax-exempt property. They're either owned by government or God. The churches don't pay property taxes. The government doesn't pay property taxes. We're also the county seat. If the government...
In Mercer County.
In Mercer County. If the government paid dollar for dollar in property taxes, they would give us $45 million, but yet the state government gave us $9 million last year in transitional aid. So we need a bigger investment from the state. Excited about the Murphy administration. He is willing to help us out And
are the dollars there, Mayor, to do that, even if he is willing?
We have to work with the legislature, so that's good working with my former colleagues, but we need them to really recognize the capital city. The Governor Christie was terrible to the capital city, took away the capital city line item, took away a lot of the aid, and so we have to rebuild the capital city.
You know, innovation, we're doing a series on the future of innovation, and so what I'm curious about is where you actually see, Mayor, the opportunities to be innovative, creative, creating more jobs. The governor, in fact, talks about the innovation economy. Mm-hmm. What do you see as the innovation economy in the capital city?
Well, we're excited. We have 5 colleges within 10 miles of the capital city.
Say that again?
We have 5 colleges within 10 miles of the capital city. Princeton University, Rider, TCNJ, Thomas Edison, and Mercer County College. And we've applied it as a consortium for economic development grant award for an innovative challenge center that we'd like to build in the capital city.
An innovative challenge center. What does that mean?
That would work with the entrepreneurial opportunities for young kids in the city of Trenton, but also link them to those colleges. They have the know-how, but they don't have the opportunity. But if we could bring those 5 colleges into the capital city, have them invest, give us some bricks and mortar, that would be a win-win for capital city residents.
Let me switch gears a little bit. By the way, Trenton Waterworks, is that a project? Is that you're trying to revive it? But what is it exactly, so the people, by the way, can go on the website to find out about Trenton. What is it?
We supply the water to 4 municipalities plus the city residents, but we have some lead line issues, much like Newark. We have to do system upgrades. We have to bring in the expertise to
the water
run
supply.
it better. Yes. There's been 8 years of mismanagement, and when I took over, we had 70 vacancies. We didn't have any system upgrades. We were facing fines from DEP and BPU, and we're all turning that around right now.
Mayor, you are, in fact, the first openly gay mayor of the capital city. Also a big advocate of curriculum, LGBTQ inclusive curriculum in New Jersey, middle school and high schools. For those who heard about this, but they don't really know what it means, what exactly does that mean, and why is it important?
Well, I think it's important, much like Black history is important or Hispanic history is important. There are things that touch upon politics or just in general that LGBT community has been on the forefront. If you want to talk about the civil rights movement, you could talk about Harvey Milk, you could talk about Stonewall.
Harvey Milk from San Francisco, who led the effort, who gave up his life in this fight for equal rights, for civil rights for those who happen to be gay. Absolutely,
and this is the 50th anniversary of Stonewall. And,
Stonewall in New York City.
Yes.
Do people, short version, I hate to say that, Stonewall was a place in, I believe, down in the lower West Village.
Yeah.
What went on there, and why was it important?
Well, it was a bar that's still in existence, but at the time it was run by the mob. It was a way for gay people to come and congregate, but it was raided constantly by police, often had to pay them off. And this was one opportunity that the gays were not going to take the harassment. And they stood up.
No more.
And it was a couple of days of rioting, and it really was the spark of the civil rights movement for the LGBT community. This is the 50th anniversary. I taught LGBT politics at TCNJ, and a lot of my students who were interested in the subject did not know what Stonewall was or never even heard of Harvey Milk.
Harvey Milk. Yeah. These things matter in the context of knowing the history of our country.
Yeah.
It's not just the LGBTQ community, that is part of, right? Someone said, I want to study suffragette, or the suffragette movement. Well, is this different?
Well, I think this empowers also LGBT kids that often get bullied and feel that they don't have self-worth. When they hear that there were actually gay heroes out there, it really helps not only with their classmates and their peers, but it also helps them understand where they can go and what potential they have.
Before I let you out of here, given the divisiveness, given the polarization in our nation, more important now than ever before for these discussions?
Absolutely, and I think that our days are greater ahead in the city of Trenton, and it's really important that we all work together, and we're going to have a much better capital city in the years ahead.
Mayor Reed Gusciora, of the capital city, Trenton. I want to thank you for joining us. Wish you and all the residents in Trenton the best.
Thanks so much, Steve.
Thanks, Mayor. Stay right there. This is State of Affairs. I'm Steve Adubato. We're at NJTV Studios in Newark. We'll be right back.
To see more State of Affairs with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at stateofaffairsnj.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD. And follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
There she is, Diane Dellanno, who is, in fact, a policy analyst for a terrific organization called Advocates for Children of New Jersey. Good to see you.
Hi, thank you for having me.
We've been working with your not-for-profit, our not-for-profits, working with your not-for-profit on an initiative called Right from the Start NJ. How would you describe it?
Well, it's an initiative to really bring attention to the needs of infants and toddlers in our state and to really make and strengthen services and policies around infants and toddlers.
And your organization's been fighting this fight for a long time.
Yes, our organization itself has been around for about 40 years. We just celebrated our 40th anniversary actually last year. And for a little over a year, we've been working on the Right from the Start NJ campaign.
Yeah, it is a campaign because it's about public awareness. It's also about we are not involved in advocacy, but in fact, we're trying to let people understand some of the issues. And one of the first issues that we need to deal with is the Murphy budget. We don't know all the details,
No.
the particulars. But the governor has dedicated in his proposed budget $15 million for what, Diane?
For childcare, and that is huge. Normally, we haven't seen any dollars dedicated strictly for childcare services, so we're very excited to see that it has made it in the budget this year.
Okay, here's the question. You know, there are so many priorities in Trenton, in the state capital, right? When someone says, well, infants and toddlers, caregivers of infants and toddlers, it's a top priority, and someone else says, well, what are you talking about? I don't have a kid that age, or my kids are older, or I don't even have kids. Why is this everyone's issue?
Well, the first 3 years are the most critical part of development. That's where brain development really happens. And what happens in those first 3 years could really have a huge impact on their academic success.
For example, break that down a little bit.
Well, that's where you learn speech. That's where you learn about relationships. It's where your brain takes in your whole environment. So we need to really make sure that everything that surrounds our babies, you know, is nurturing, caring, developmentally appropriate, so that they get off to the right start.
So I'm curious about this. We've had this discussion offline, but I want to talk about it here. Diane, access to quality health care. It's a phrase. Excuse me, access to quality child care.
Yes.
Why is it so difficult for so many?
Right. Well, quality and childcare, two different things. High quality childcare, very expensive. Childcare itself is very expensive, but for babies, it's even more expensive. What you have to do for a child is very different than a preschooler or older age children. They need a lot more care. They need a lot more one-on-one. So the ratios in a child care center, licensing standards are there has to be one caregiver for every 4 babies. So that's where the cost is, really, in the personnel that you have to serve infants and toddlers.
1 second. Someone says, wait a minute, I see this whole movement for pre-K. It's universal pre-K people are proposing, moving forward, making progress. That's not the same as 0 to 3, birth to 3.
No, because this is what happens in the first 3 years of life. And you need to really make sure that they get off to the right start so that they can transition into pre-K and then transition into kindergarten
and if they
so
don't,
on.
talk about some of the challenges they face.
Some of the challenges for not having access to high-quality child care. Well, since there's so much learning that happens in the first 3 years, if they're not ready for pre-K and not ready for kindergarten, it sets them on a trajectory which may have an impact on their academic success.
There's research to back that up.
Oh, there is, yes.
And
decades of research that has shown that high-quality childcare, right from the start, really helps to make a difference.
Dan, talk about the pressures on parents who can't find that care for their children.
69% of women with children under the age of 3 are in the workforce. And the availability of infant toddler care is scarce in New Jersey. We have communities that are deserts, which means there's no infant toddler child care even available for them to even access. And we're talking about regulated, licensed child care programs. Right. So they need to find something that meets their work schedule. Because 9 to 5, not everybody works 9 to 5 anymore. So childcare needs to be responsive to the parents' needs.
Let's do this. By the way, you'll see the website up, not only our website for Right from the Start of Jay, but also Advocates for Children in New Jersey. New Jersey paid family leave program. There are some changes being made, and I wish I should have said to have a graphic here, but follow me on this. As of right now, new parents or caregivers can receive up to 6 weeks of benefits equal to 2/3 of their pay, capped at $650 a week.
Yes.
It is proposed that on July 1st, 2020, eligible workers will be able to receive 80% of their wages up to $860 for 12 weeks. Why does that matter so much?
I mean, actually, it's 85%, and
85.
it doubled from 6 weeks to 12 weeks.
Explain what that means for people.
So for the first 3 months, you get to be home with your child, bonding with your child, and you can have an income that you can actually be able to stay home and not worry about, the income that you will be losing from not being in your workplace. And the other benefit about paid family leave is now companies that have 30 or more employees, you have job protection. So you could leave your job for the 12 weeks and come back and have that same position.
If there are 30 employees or more.
Right. That's the new provisions in the new law that was just signed in February.
It's interesting. We've had other leaders from the business community who have some concerns about that. They've had their opportunity to discuss it. They'll continue to be able to do that. But it is, in fact, going to happen on July 1st, 2020.
Those provisions will go into place, yes.
Home visitation. What is home visitation in the minute or so we have left? Why does it matter?
Home visitation is when a skilled, trained professional comes into the home right around or after the time of birth and provides the family with the resources that they need to help them through those first critical months after they bring home.
You don't mean a doula?
It could be a doula. It could be a nurse, and it could be a community health worker who comes into the home. What it is a trained person that connects with that parent and helps connect that parent to the services that they need. You know, as a father, how difficult it is those first few months. And all babies are different, and all pregnancies and experiences are different. So having somebody in the home could help detect something and help get them the services early on.
Before I let you out, sorry for interrupting, where are we with that right now? Is Senator Teresa Ruiz, based actually here in Newark, New Jersey, who is the second-ranking Democrat in the Senate, she recently introduced a bill for home visitation. Where is that right now?
Right now, it's still out there. It's a brand new bill that has just been released, and what that would do is get at least one home visit for every new parent.
But it's not, has it gone through committee yet?
No.
Just introduced?
It's just introduced, so we're just working on it, but it's something that we would definitely support.
Diane, thank you so much to you and your colleagues at Advocates for Children in New Jersey. 40 great years. Thanks so much.
Great, thanks.
Stay right there. This is State of Affairs. I'm Steve Adubato, and we'll be right back.
To see more State of Affairs with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at stateofaffairsnj.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD. And follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
We are pleased to be joined by Angelo J. Genova, Chairman and Managing Partner of Genova Burns, one of the top law firms in the region. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Steve.
And also want to say that your firm is one of the many folks supporting the public affairs programming that we do on State of Affairs. Angelo, you're an expert when it comes to a whole range of issues having to do with campaign laws, campaign finance, but we didn't have you here for that. You are concerned about the two-party system, A, and B, what it means to our nation. Make the case.
Well, I'm concerned on a lot of levels. It starts with the fact that when you go back in history, the founders didn't contemplate this idea that we would have two parties. And it evolved over time, and it has served us well. In fact, It's served us very well through centuries. I think what's happened, though, is that the parties as institutions for developing candidates, as institutions for raising money, as institutions for establishing policies, have been displaced. And they've been displaced by the media as communicators. They've been displaced by independent expenditures, super PACs as vehicles to raise money. The discipline that came with the development of party platforms are gone, and candidacies are all candidate-centered. They're not party-centered.
Is that how a Donald Trump becomes the nominee, 16 candidates in the GOP primary, and then becomes president? Is that part of the reason?
I think it's
more complex, I know.
Yeah, but I think it's part of the reason because there's a path that becomes available to a Donald Trump or to a candidate like Donald Trump where there's not a dependency on the party. And what typically happens, if you look over the last decade or so, you have individual or candidate-centered politics. The person gets the nomination, and then the party folds into that person. So the party gets defined by that person, and Trump is a great example of that. And the question is that are people, and if you ask the average Joe, they're voting for a candidate.
Not the party.
They're not as identified with the party, I've observed.
More and more independence?
More and more independence.
Well, what does an independent really mean?
Well, independent means I ask yourself this question: why is it that 40% of the electorate doesn't want to identify with a party? They don't want to identify with a party. Either they don't know it, they feel that they don't want to be beholden to an ideology, they want a sense of freedom, whether you want to call it a libertarian sensibility or whatever, but that they're not about the party, they're about the candidate, and they'll choose their candidate based on the issues.
Is there something wrong with that? Sorry for interrupting, Angelo. Is there something, not wrong, I don't want to say it that way, is there something dangerous about that?
I kind of think there is because, you know, I use a metaphor that might sound silly to people, but it's, you know, kind of like the arranged marriage. The arranged marriage of centuries ago, parents got together and said...
Are you talking about our ancestors from southern Italy
yes,
right now?
Yes, we are. We're talking about that. But the point is when we had a party where there were party leaders who vetted candidates, and some would say that we were backroom deals, we got some great candidates. We got John Kennedy. We got Franklin Roosevelt. When the party apparatus is lost, when there isn't this mechanism where people vet themselves, where they evaluate themselves, where they're trained, where there's no organizational support for the development of candidates, then I think it's problematic. Now, some would say, well, the open primary, that's the most democratic.
Right.
You know, my sense is, yeah, that offers democracy, but if you don't have if you don't have a counterbalance, if you don't have a political apparatus that develops people, develops candidates, then I think it puts at risk people's willingness to support political parties.
Angelo, the other thing you mentioned about the media, it's so interesting. I mean, we in public broadcasting try to approach these issues from a comprehensive, analytical perspective, bring on people who are thoughtful and with different points of view. But some of our colleagues, and this is not meant to disparage the folks in commercial cable, if you will, broadcasting, but if you listen on a nightly basis, it doesn't feel and sound like this. It doesn't. I'm not saying we're better. I'm saying the divisiveness that we often hear on cable news on a nightly basis and the demonizing of each other. Does that worry you?
Sure it does. I recently watched a documentary on the 1968 election in the United States that showed how the original debates between Gore Vidal and William Buckley.
Incredible.
Yeah, were the, some would say, is the seminal event that provoked what we see on Cablevision today. I think the incivility.
Talk about mean and nasty.
Sure, and the absence of merit-based discourse. It's troubling, and we don't have merit-based discourse in a lot of venues. If you look at the political parties, are they venues for merit-based discourse? Are they genuinely places where we bring everybody under the tent, come to solutions, or are they driven by factions within the parties? I mean, the big debate right now is whether the Democratic Party is being driven by one element of the party no differently than how the Republican Party was driven over the last decade. So if parties are supposed to be the big tent, if you will, the vehicle for mitigating
the vetting,
right, to come up with platforms. I mean, you ask the average Democrat if they've ever read the platform of the Democratic Party. Do they really identify with the brand? Do they know what that brand means? You know, at the turn of the last century, I tend to like history, but at the turn of the last century, the platform mattered. People voted for the platform. They weren't candidate-centered.
In the time we have left, Angelo, is the platform of the Democratic Party, by the way, in our new series, Think Tank, produced right here out of NJTV Studios, we're going to be talking about one of the first shows, The Future of the Democratic Party. Do people say, the future of the Democratic Party, is it Ocasio-Cortez, Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, in New York? Is it Cory Booker? Is it someone in the Senate? Is it Mikey Sherrill? My point is, it's based on not policies so much, but people.
Well, but there's a fundamental question every political party has to ask. Is this about winning in a ballot box, or is this about ascribing to a set of principles that may not get you elected? And I think that's true in both parties.
What should it be, in your opinion?
Well, I think a party should have principles. I think people should subscribe to those principles. I think people should be accountable to those principles. But if a party truly wants to operate in the big tent, those principles has to embrace the philosophies of many people.
As opposed to, a few seconds left, if you're not with us on this, we're not compromising, forget it. We'd rather lose than compromise, you say?
Well, I say to that is that it's more important to find your way into public office to make a difference than it is to subscribe solely to principles that can't get you there.
Angelo Genova has been working at this for a long time with a lot of folks. He is the chairman and managing partner of Genova Burns, a law firm based right
here in the great city of Newark.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Angelo. Stay right there. This is State of Affairs. I'm Steve Adubato. We'll catch you next time.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 30 years of broadcast excellence. State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Agnes Veris NJTV studio at 2 Gateway. Funding has been provided by NJM Insurance Group. Choose New Jersey, the Turl Fund, supporting right from the start NJ. The Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, Berkeley College, and by Summit Medical Group.
NJM Insurance Company has been serving New Jersey policyholders for more than 100 years. But just who are NJM's policyholders? They're the men and women who teach our children, the public sector employees who maintain our infrastructure, the workers who craft our manufactured goods, and New Jersey's next generation of leaders, the people who make our state a great place to call home. NJM, we've got New Jersey covered.